Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle book review of Marvel's Greatest Superhero Battles. Now, this is by Stan Lee, and it's part of a Fireside series. Fireside brought loads of these books out back in the 1970s by Stan Lee, and you've got Stan Lee on the back, and it's battles between like Silver Surfer and Thor, Fantastic Four, Hulk versus The Thing, and also Daredevil versus Submariner. Obviously, all these stories have been reprinted many times since, but still, it is nice to see you in this nice format. It was a paperback, very nice paperback, 1978, about 260 odd pages, and it's in colour all the way through. This copy's fairly grubby, but still very nice copy, and I'm intending to pick up more of these Fireside books if I can find them. And I was just looking at the list on here, and there's a Wikipedia one, strange enough, Wikipedia. There's one here that sounds very interesting, Best of Spidey Super Stories. I've never actually seen any Spidey Super Stories ever anyway. For some weird reason, they never seem to turn up, particularly in the UK. I certainly never found them anyway in my local shops. But you've got Marvel's Greatest Superhero Battles. You've also got other ones, the Doctor Strange one, Fantastic Four one. There's also the Superwoman one, Superhero Women. Also, Bring On the Bad Guys and the Son of Origins of Marvel Comics. They were quite a mouthful, most of these titles, I always found. But still, I think these were nice quality books, and certainly back in 1978, they were... there were not that many collections at that point, so it was great to get. Obviously, like I say, slightly seen better days, but still very nice. And you can see all the various ones. There's obviously the Fantastic Four, 25, 26. Now, they don't actually list give the details of the issues, but obviously Combat with Submariner, Daredevil number 7, Beware of the Blob, X-Men number 3, and so on. And also gives a nice little introduction each time to each of the stories, which is always good. And there's the Fantastic Four, Hulk versus The Thing, issue 25, and also includes issue 26, which was with the Avengers, which I really, really enjoyed. It's one of those crossover ones where it was real impact. Near enough could have included the X-Men as well. And that would have been Spidey. Virtually everyone would have been in that story. Really impressive. But I'm not certain about the artwork. I mean, the artwork's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it looks great. It's on lovely matte paper. But I don't know if it's the same as the original issues. I don't think it is. Because I've got an issue here. And I'm just going to show that in a little while. Tales to Astonish. And that's the Iron Man issue 82. And I will show that just so to compare. But it's definitely, there's bits of line work, definitely just seems to be changed. Now, I don't know if it's the same for all the other stories. I haven't got the copies of those. Obviously, I've got them in Marvel Masterworks or Essentials as well as Omnibuses, etc. But it's obviously I haven't got the original issues to show. So you got there Immortal Combat with Submariner. Really good. Colours are absolutely first rate. Again, I don't know if they're exactly the same as the colours that were in the original comics. Someone could put in the comments below if that's the case, if they are or not. This one's a very unusual one. X-Men number 3. I love this story. X-Men number 3 was quite a favourite. It was appeared in one of the annuals, one of those early Fantastic annuals, and I just loved that story at the time, and I still love the story as well. Beware of the Blob. But I'm not certain it's one of the greatest superhero battles of all time, but in the Blob, you'd think that maybe, obviously the next one, issue 4 with the evil mutants, would have been a more obvious choice. Maybe the one when they had Submariner, issue 5, I think. Those sort of things would have been probably better. But obviously they went with what they went, and it's, like I say, a great little story, even if it's a bit daft and really sort of relies heavily on Professor X. But you got this one, Silver Surfer again, you got a nice little introduction, and you got the story there. Number 4, and you've got Silver Surfer. Loki looks around to find out who he can choose. He doesn't go for Galactus, he doesn't go for Doctor Doom, which would have probably been a good choice, but still, he goes for the Silver Surfer, which is very odd, especially considering that Mephisto has had big problems with him. No, Silver Surfer goes with him, looking seriously evil there. He's obviously slightly ghostly form. But the next stories, I think, great, and that's the Iron Man one. Now, not all the stories have covers. This one does, issue 79, but all the ones after that don't. And Gene Colan, and this is quite a nice one. Weirdly, for issue 82, which is the one I'm going to show, but they didn't put the cover, and Gene Colan had flu, and so he only did the first 2 pages. You can see the artwork there. It changes very dramatically, and it always surprised me when I got this issue. I looked and thought, what? quite staggering. And there's an amazing, powerful sort of story, really high impact all the way through. Lots of dramatics. You see there, obviously Iron Man. But let's go for the comic itself. And I've got this. Here's the issue. And I'd say it's about the same size. You can see there, I don't know about exactly the artwork when it matches exactly. Let's go for that. I'm just going to... Now, this is one of the great scenes, one of the dramatic scene here. Never on land or undersea. He gets hit there. You can see Iron Man somewhere. And let's bring up the other one. And there it is again. Now, I think there's a lot of the line work in this. You can see there that mass powerful... The line work has definitely changed. You can see lines certainly on that pipe and various other places, like on the pipe, whereas there's a lot of marks and things that are not actually in the Fireside one. So clearly there's been some subtle changes. There's been a bit of a slight modification in places. It's very odd. Absolutely very odd. And I mean, that's a very unusual one. Just I hadn't noticed how that's... very few lines there. It's very odd. Iron Man looks very strange there. So you've got that scene there. So let's just go for that scene now and here. And it's quickly find that. It's near the back. So let's just go. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's much the same. It actually seems that the lines are a lot darker, a bit thicker as well. You can see there exactly the same scene. But there's definitely, when you look at, say, like some of the rivets and things, or lines and other bits of work, lines on people's clothing, some of the lines just seem to be slightly different. Very odd. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just the way it's been reduced. Maybe there's been subtle changes there. But it looks about the same size. I mean, it doesn't look that different in sizing. And I'm just going to compare the two. Yes, it's just slightly reduced. Maybe that's the reason for the change. You can actually just see, if you put the two against each other, it is actually slightly, very slightly. I don't know why. Why not make it the same size? Makes no sense. It looks like, to me anyway, just looking at that issue and the other one, you've got, it's about half an inch, quarter of an inch different in size. Seems strange, but anyway, that's maybe that's changed some of the lines. Maybe some of the lines just ended up being lost there. Now the next one's really good, and I think it is one of the great battles. Dormammu. Never get his name right, so my apologies if I got his name completely wrong. Weirdly, I do not know why I chose this. 188 Strange Tales. No, it wasn't. It was in Strange Tales 100, whatever it was, 140 or so. Unfortunately, they don't actually put... Do they put the numbers at the back? They might include... No, it doesn't seem to actually include the details. And I will quickly look on the Wikipedia, so let's just quickly see that, because what does it say in the Wikipedia for that? Marvel's greatest thing... Strange Tales 139 to 141, so clearly not 188, but they've included that cover, maybe just because it looked dramatic. But it's odd because it's, I mean, I suppose it's got Dormammu and it's got Mordo, and he's doing obviously his dubious things as he always did. You've got the ancient ones sitting there floating away there. But brilliant Steve Ditko work, of course, always good. Again, unfortunately, I can't compare with, obviously, I haven't got the omnibus in front of me to actually look at it, but I haven't got the originals either. I would love to have it. But this was one of the classics, and it was a story that ran for ages. I don't know if it's ever mentioned that much in terms of a long story, but it must have been, at the time, in the 1960s, one of the longest running stories that Marvel ever did, or even any comic ever did. I don't know if maybe put in the comments were there other stories that were longer, but it went on for ages. That story, just literally every month there was another bit of twist and turn of that story of Dormammu and Mordo and all that sort of ancient one. He'd go off here, go off there, then he'd be dragged back, then he'd have a battle, then he'd go off somewhere else, then have another bit of a battle. And it was really extended, and this was, of course, the classic conclusion of it, sort of, because there was, of course, the story later with Eternity. If Let There Be Victory. Bit of a giveaway in the titles. So at least you know. Finally, we're getting to the story, the end of the story. And of course, there's Clea as well in the story, introduction of Clea. Absolutely brilliant. I love that artwork there, that lovely lines. Use that quite a lot. I enjoyed that sort of doodle that he always put in. But that's that. And then there's actually quite a good choice in terms. Again, I'm not certain that it's probably greatest battles. I would have included Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, maybe one of the Dr. Octopus stories. I don't know. I'm not certain. Kingpin. I wouldn't have chosen that one. It's good. Crush the Kingpin. But it's not only that, it's because it doesn't really conclude particularly. You've just got the story. I guess that's the reason, probably why they didn't want a two-parter with the Green Goblin one. But you got, I always love that scene. The door to my vault requires no loft. No, some petty thief can never do it. Only a Kingpin's naked super strength, etc., can do it. Or strength, he says there. Obviously, if Hulk comes along or the Thing comes along, he can do it with one finger. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. They never ever had the Kingpin battle against the Thing. Now, that would have been an interesting story. Or the Thor versus Kingpin. I think the Kingpin would have had a few problems there. Or against the Hulk. That would have been an interesting one. Point of no return, it says there for the Thing. Obviously, we never see the next story. That story continued for quite a while as well. Of course, it was the classic one with the old tablet, this petrified stone, as it says there. And that was good. And got an epilogue there, and that's it. Really nice addition, nice little collection. You, again, please put in the comments below your favourite. What would you think should be in the Marvel's greatest superhero battles? I can think of a lot of stories that are around, that obviously, certainly if you take it all the way up to 78, and that's obviously what you could do, 78, probably 77, you could think of a lot of classic stories. I mean, I would have put the Avengers one versus the Defenders, the final issue, probably 118. I'm certain that could have been included there. That would have been great, and many others. I think there's a lot more than that, but still, it's a good selection and very nice to get this book. So, well, I'm glad I picked it up, and I say, hopefully. Hope to pick up some of the others. Maybe if they turn up at a reasonable price, I will definitely buy the evil guy one, the bad guys, as well as obviously the son of. I somehow suspect they're going to be tricky to find. But Marvel's greatest superhero battles, totally recommended.